Today, for the presentation, we're going to have Yagmur be our mentor. She will give the feedbacks for each of the teams. For those of you who are joining the session, please stay muted during the presentation. If you have any questions, please wait till the end of the session to ask those questions, or you can put it into the comment section. Please drop the comments into the chat box. Yeah, and that's it. Okay, the links will be now shared on the chat box. Oh, okay, that was this one. Okay, for the donation link that we have on the website, if you would like to support us, please donate via Ko-fi. The donation will go into help fund challenges like this. Okay, and so this is going to be about the wrap-up party. It will be tomorrow, December 2nd at 5:30 Pacific time. We will have games, networking, lucky draw prizes, UXR Challenge winner, and prize announcements. Okay, so that's it for today. That's it for me presenting right now, and let me stop sharing the screen. The first team we're gonna have go would be team 18. So team 18, if you're ready, you can start. Let me put 10 minutes on my clock. And
I assume you can hear me, and I assume you can see the screen.
Yep, we can see you and hear you.
All right.
okay.
So, all right, there we go. All right, so my team, that's Iris, Avi, Nalan, and myself, we conducted research for cookies. They are a cookie compliance provider that offers a relatively simple solution for a complex legal topic, which is then just meant to be set up and forget. The presentation itself is separated into four parts. We'll briefly touch upon the challenge or what we wanted to achieve, how we went about it, cover what we found, and we'll then conclude with actions to take. So how did we approach this? We started by speaking with our stakeholders to better understand the situation. Initially, they provided actually 4 different problem statements, but after talking to them, it became apparent that what truly keeps them awake at night is how to get people to pay and then stick around. In fact, most users were just coming in through their free, easy-to-use WordPress plugin. But of course, being a business, they eventually have to make bank, and conversion from the users has been low so far. And we assume that the reason for this is A, people either don't understand why they should be becoming paid users, or B, those willing to pay are not currently the ones that are signing up. And to find answers beyond what the analytical data that shows, we aim to understand the needs and expectations that drive the behavior of leads. And knowing that the tool is idly just set up and forget, we focused on the onboarding, how people felt about it, and what major blockers keep them from reaching their goals. Trust and compliance is the end-all and be-all in this field. So the onboarding was a perfect starting point, directly related to the customer lifetime value, which gave us the most worth in the short amount of time that we had in the scope of the project. As a result, what we specifically did was we started out with a competitive analysis, which helped us to get an overview over the who and who, as well as what they do well or where they could improve. We conducted this basically the same way an actual business user might themselves. And this was then followed by moderated usability testing. After all, we wanted to understand how they experience the product and what remains unaddressed by cookies, and have the chance to follow up, dig deeper on what merely looking at the numbers doesn't show. For this, me and Nalin, we recruited a diverse group of 6 participants that fit the ICPs that were given to us, with somewhat of focus on the EU market. One, because they were the easiest to identify and reach for us, and two, because of the strictest and most advanced legislation in place over there. And here is what we found. So for the competitive analysis, we've learned that the onboarding to these products is relatively intuitive, and you get what you would expect. They do particularly well in addressing their niches. For example, Ubenda credibly claims to provide attorney-level compliance. User-centrics even went as far as to have one brand for enterprises and another one for a more straightforward, simplistic solution or approach. And with all of them, you really get the sense that you can rely on them. So after talking to the users, we identified 3 personas: designers, product managers / owners, and developers. For the presentation, I've chosen to focus on the latter, being the most likely to interact with the tool and to be moving through the onboarding. Developers are not really interested in dealing with compliance. They just want to get it out of the way, never think about it again. So it should be quick, easy, reliable, and maintenance-free. What bothers them is not being able to customize according to their superiors' needs, which would require them to tinker and to find workarounds. So we gave them the scenario that they are launching a site that needs to be compliant with GDPR, and asked them how they would approach this, asking them to basically just explore naturally. And what stood out throughout is that they were not experts. So what they needed from the site is guidance on the requirements. Will this work for us? How is it different from everyone else I've already checked out? Will this be the best fit for our business, for our company, for my company? So they interact with the preview, sign up to dig deeper, and then land on the subscription page. And this is a blocker, and therefore major frustration for them. It comes unexpected. It is way too sudden and contradicts with what they've read earlier, which is not needing to enter credit card details, so directly in opposition to what they are seeing. And on top of that, there is no context, no introduction. It automatically signs them up for the basic plan, which they either miss or they don't understand. So overall, they are actually pretty pissed about this, leading them to leaving, just looking elsewhere, and probably never even returning after. The onboarding then itself worsens things when it all becomes confusing and has even more bugs. One of them basically said, there's so many inconsistencies, so many errors. It just sets up, how can I trust you as a business? So the one who tried to install the banner, he just couldn't get it to work. So he came to the conclusion, okay, looks like you are at an alpha stage, but I can't give my product owner the go ahead. We cannot use this. One of them was working with financial institutions. Another one was developing a dating app. So they'd be risking immense fines and trust issues on the user's end as well. So the experience led them to find someone more reliable instead that they would be able to trust. And what I feel is important to understand is that these are actually the people willing to pay for what works. Those running just a one-pager, they can't care less. They'll just put up the next best banner to comply. That's free. They won't be the ones shelling out an extra $10 a month. So what we suggest is to focus on these particular personas that are most likely to actually pay. And the 3 key patterns that we identified that summarize our findings were: 1, people didn't feel the actual experience matched what they'd come to expect. 2, the subscription page was not well implemented or positioned in the process. And 3, the homepage isn't currently addressing the primary audience, which is the one that I've just talked about. By example, almost all participants, they struggle to customize the banner. If you get clients from the website, you want to make sure that the banner looks like it belongs, and the default settings normally don't work for you. Another thing, people initially felt that the site looked decent and professional, but going through the content, the testimonials, they felt these aren't real people, which took away their trust completely. And for the subscription page, people were really surprised to see it popping up in the first place. They didn't expect it, with some even feeling scammed. It definitely didn't have the expected impact that stakeholders had in mind. So despite being willing to eventually pay for quality product, they didn't expect one after seeing this particular page. And basically because it was considered to be a dark pattern. So for the stakeholders, you want to make sure and make it clear what to expect, reposition the screen, and add relevant details. Last, the homepage, as mentioned, it doesn't address the primary audience. For Germans in particular, you will see, or Germany in particular, you will see content optimized for the United States, be it language, currency, or the portfolio being shown. Then it's focused on the features instead of the benefits, and they are described with a lot of jargon they struggle to understand. So what you want to do here is consider them, learn more about them, and provide them with what they are looking for in a language that they actually can understand. To prioritize, we utilize an opportunity area matrix, which showed us that accessibility shouldn't be the priority at this stage. It was something that the stakeholders considered, but talking to users, they actually told us directly, this is not something we are actually looking for. We don't care. In fact, people on the EU market, basically the ones we had talked to, they said, it doesn't make a difference for us at this point. We haven't even considered it. To sum up, when you create expectations through the homepage, you want to bring them to the overall product. You want to ensure that the homepage isn't just aesthetic on first impression, but that the content matches those looks. And second, being sudden and unexpected, you want to overhaul the subscription page to make sense to the user and be transparent about it. And last, for the onboarding, you want to fix some of the usability issues plus the critical bugs that we uncovered and which we've come across. And generally, we strongly suggest and advise that you keep talking to your users to understand what their experience is like beyond just the numbers and the analytics. Yeah, and that's it. Thank you for your time, and we'll now be taking the questions.
Thank you so much.
Well
That
done,
was
Daniel.
really good.
Okay.
You like me to stop sharing already, or keep it open for...
Actually, leave it open. I would open the floor up to Yagmur so she can give her feedbacks. I will put like five minutes on the clock. If you go over a little bit, that's fine.
Okay. Overall, great job. I think it covers most of the things. I just have a couple of feedback. So initially, when you first started explaining the topic and the problem statement, I wasn't sure if I understood your problem statement very well because you passed that too quickly. I would have liked a little bit more explanation, maybe the problem statement having its own slide even, because like I would like you to tell me about the background, not just saying that like, oh, the stakeholders told us this problem, but why should I care about this problem? Why did you put so much work into this problem? Like I would like that stories baseline a little bit more stronger. Like if you don't know, like go back to your stakeholder and ask them what are they basing these problems? Like, is it the retention rate? Is it that they're concerning? Are they having a lot of users churning? Are they not having new users signing up? Like, give me a little bit more context that would set
right,
your...
they have. At least I thought I addressed it. Sorry.
Yeah.
In here, like they have a lot of users coming in. The problem is, first of all, they are not paying. And second of all, they are not converting. So customer lifetime value is the actual issue for them.
Yeah, no, I think that's great, but maybe like a little bit, like talk a little bit more about it because I think you passed it a little so quickly. Maybe it's because of the time that we have. It could definitely cause that pressure. So I feel you, but setting the problem statement more stronger at first will definitely keep more engaged. You mentioned that afterwards, like we did competitive analysis, we did usability testing. I would like for the story to be more consistent. I would like for you to, when you introduce a competitive analysis, I would want to know what you found right away. When you introduce a usability testing, I would want to know right away. I think it was great, like the work that you put into it that you presented later on. But when you are saying that, oh, this is what we did, I would like to know what happened right away. I think there were like a couple of slides in between them, but the competitive analysis and the usability testing you found was great. So I would like to know like what you found when you introduced it as a stakeholder attending this presentation, because they are really like, they don't want to wait about what you learned. They want to know what's happened actually right away, usually. In your usability testing
So instead,
sorry, go ahead.
instead of introducing both methods up front, you would just go directly into the insights.
So in your introduction, you can say like we conducted our studies with this many participants. These are the methodologies we used, and this was the objective. And then dive into dive into what you found right away. So for example, once you say like, okay, we did competitive analysis and usability testing. This is what we found right away. After that will keep them more engaged. And their attention will be more up and going. With the usability testing reporting, since it's an evaluative methodology, I think I would like to see like videos and screenshots, like where is that usability problem is happening? Like show me that as well. Like I love that you brought quotes. I love you put actionable insights with your reporting. That's very important. But I would also like to see like maybe like a video recording, or if you don't have a video recording, maybe like a screenshot of that prototype or the product, like where it's happening, show it to me, because as a stakeholder, I might not exactly remember what that point is at my product. So I would like to see that again. But I love that you put like actionable insights in all those themes and explain like, what do I have to take away from this? Like you explained the so what of it really well. So that was great. And one more thing.
I considered actually adding the videos, but then I thought the people that I talked to, they signed up for me sharing it with the team, but they didn't sign up for me putting it online on the internet on YouTube.
No, that's completely fine. In those cases, what you can do is like you can go back to your prototype, take a screenshot, and like put circles or like put like arrows and pointing out to the where that's happening. Like in those confidentiality issues, you can like work around it. I totally understand that. But adding quotes was a really good way of saying it. Maybe like go over the quotes sometimes, like not just have them on your slides, but talk about them too. Like say, for example, one participant said this. So that way I don't have to read it and try to catch what you're saying at the same time. And I can also get a feeling of like, okay, yeah, users actually said that. This is an actual problem that's happening. But as mentioned, like the actionable recommendations was a great part in your reporting. One more thing about usable testing is that I realized this in some of my groups as well that I was mentoring. Do not only report the negative findings. Tell me what I did right with my product too. That's going to keep me engaged. That's going to keep me more motivated to listen to what I did wrong as well. So tell me what users liked as well as where they had trouble too. So I think adding that aspect is going to help your stakeholders, help your product managers or whoever is product owners to feel a bit more motivated to listen to what your recommendations, because you're not just bashing their product, but you're also saying that users love this, but they are having trouble here. Let's fix that to give them the great like experience, right? So that would like, that's something that I realized that I was also doing a lot, and I was getting a lot of feedback like, okay, but tell me what I did right too. Like, so that's something that like I think it's important to present and not skip, because as user researchers, we're trying to get to the point, tell them the problem, but let's talk about the fun things and good things that are happening too, right? So that will that is something, just one point that I wanted to add. I was a little confused about how you identify the personas, because you mentioned you did competitive analysis and usability testings. Those are not the methodologies to actually identify personas. I think you did what I understood from your presentation is like your team has conducted moderated user interviews with usability testings and asked users about their goals, expectations, and frustrations, right?
Right. We had an introductory section and then, a final wrap up.
Okay.
So before and after the usability testing.
Tell them that you did that too. Like at first I was only expecting usability testing and competitive analysis findings. Don't undersell your work. Tell them you also did a user interview with those usability testings, and that's how you found this. That's how you built these personas, because I was a little confused, like, oh, like how did they come up with this persona information if they just did the usability testing? So tell them that it is a user interview with usability testing, show that you actually did that as well. It will also answer people's questions about, oh, how did they come up with these personas, but it will also show the strength of your work as well. That was another thing that I realized with some of my teams as well, that they represented just as usability testings, but it's actually user interviews with usability testing. That's how you identify personas, right? So that's great. I would like to, with personas, I would like to know a little bit more about those personas' goals and motivations and frustrations. Not just maybe with one sentence, but I would like to know more about them. Like, instead of with persona templates, I realize that are available across the internet. A lot of them focus on that about me section, but not really like goals, frustrations, needs, and motivation section on the templates, which is not what stakeholders want. They mostly want to know about those needs and goals and frustrations more than the about me section of those personas. They don't really read that. They want to come and just read those bullet points about, okay, these are his goals and these are his frustrations. This is what the personas is. So I would spend a little bit more time in those rather than trying to build up the like backstory of that persona. But other than that, it was great. And my last comment that I noted down is that in the journey, I feel like I would have liked to see where you see that opportunity gaps. I love that you put like the quotes. That was very engaging. And I love how you went over the quotes as well in your journey. So that was a great, and user journey is something that's not very easy to present, because everyone thinks they know the journey of the product, but not the user is not necessarily step in every step of that journey. So you showing that like, this is where I had trouble, this is where they don't. I would like a little bit of like alt text of like what they mean. Like, okay, they are having trouble in this fourth step, but what does it mean for my product? Like applying that actionable recommendations kind of thing to like translate what's happening to me over there as well. Like I would have liked that a little bit more, but other than that, the journey was great. It was a great ad for sure that I didn't see a lot. So that was like that made the presentation much stronger. Like I really liked it. I think you guys put a lot of work. I would just like, these are just minor comments that would just strengthen the presentation a little bit more, but overall great presentation.
Sure, no worries.
Well done,
Thank you for the
Danielle.
feedback.
Thank you, guys. Can we start?
Thank you, Yagmur.
Next team will be team 11, and Alice, you're going to be sharing your screens, right?
Yes, I will.
Okay, perfect. So you can start.
Good
You guys
luck,
are ready?
team 11.
Thank you, CJ. Okay, ready, Stella?
Yes.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay, so hi guys, we're Team 11 and we worked on a project called This Active Life with Breathless Studios, and now let us take you on a research journey.
Next slide.
I know it's not switching. Oh, there you go. That's why.
And so here are some background information and statistics. We believe that movement is a factor in improving health, and this app aims to connect individuals in close proximity with a new and diverse individual or group to help them expand their social network while staying active so that their well-being can be improved. And we are here to understand if staying active with a partner benefits one's social and physical health. The objective of this project is that to understand users' behaviors, needs, and motivations, especially as it relates to an accountability partner, resources, and their health goals. We conducted one-on-one interviews with 9 participants, including 5 women and 4 men who are living a sedentary lifestyle. We also conducted comparative analysis to analyze reviews of both direct and indirect competitors. And for the participant breakdown, we have interviewees primarily were female living in a suburban area, and we also have one 60-year-old man who still fits in our criteria.
So we worked with the stakeholders to work on the assumption mapping. So we narrowed down to the top 5 assumptions that are considered high risk and unknown. So this is one of the assumptions that we had, was there is a desire to be more active. However, we learned that the cost of being active is greater than the motivations, especially for women who tend to have concern over their self-image. For some new gym goers, they feel overwhelmed by going to a new gym and not knowing what or how to operate those machines, or I guess you can call it equipment. So overcoming these costs need a little bit more support in order for them to ease them into having an active lifestyle. The second key finding we have is, before going to research, we assume that increased social health will increase physical health. We found that the size of social network did not affect how active individuals were. Some of the active individuals had the most active social life. So there was one participant who are considered sedentary in our opinion, according to our definitions, but she had the most, the wider social network. Our key finding number 3 is that we thought users need accountabilities to stay active. While that is true, most interviewees were they exercise alone, and there were few who played a sport or with a community-based group. And the accountability partners seem to be primarily family members, in-laws, or parents, or child their own. So they are primarily people they see on a regular basis at their gym, at the club, or their family members. So routine played the biggest part in consistency. Key finding number 5 is, we thought user will continue to use the app after finding accountability partners. Yes and no, because usually the new activities were usually saw through existing social networks, so through family members rather than through technologies. So the friendship and the expansion of social network happens organically instead of actual seeking friendship through technology. So there was a limited interest in expanding their social network. Here are some of the quotes that we thought we were interesting. Personally, there was one quote that says, "I feel guilty if I don't go on my daily hour-long walk." And prior going to the research, I didn't think guilt would be a motivator to keep someone going. But for some individuals, you know, guilt is a way, it's almost like a personal coach to keep that individual going forward. And here we're moving on to the competitive analysis portion that Stella will take over.
We categorize social app as our direct competitors and exercise app as the indirect ones. And so the first one is Bumble BFF. It's a social platform that enables users to make new friends. So one of the strengths is that it connects with potential friends nearby, but there may be a lot of fake profiles, and the success rate of connecting with people may heavily depend on your location. That means those living in an urban area may be more likely to connect because of the bigger population. And for Meetup, it allows users to build communities based on the area and the interest, but sometimes users don't show up to an event, and it may be used like a dating site. And for the exercise apps, the first one is the Nike training app, and it provides a customizable and a wide variety of workouts, and users are also able to track their fitness progress, but the level of the programs may sometimes be too high that are not suitable for beginners to do. And the second one is MyFitnessPal. It allows users to set dietary goals so that they can lose weight, but there are too many ads and the calorie measurements are arbitrary in general.
Thank you. So our recommendation is we consider filling the gap for true beginners. So for those people who are truly sedentary, who are couch potatoes, getting them out of their couch is what we consider true beginners. So baby step for these individuals. We feel like there is a need for those for that market. And so the second point is help user establish active routines. So helping users using stairs rather than elevators and built into the daily routines, or having a certain time or with certain person to stay active. So routine is definitely one of the motivator to keep them going. The third point is the value proposition needs to be made during onboarding to overcome costs of being active. So earlier I mentioned that so motivation to exercise is the cost is too great. So in order to motivate the sedentary users, we need to show them the benefits and highlight the value propositions that the benefits can bring to their lives, that this app can bring to their lives. And then lastly is allow selection of tracking. Tracking is important because people need to feel a sense of accomplishment. So having tracking, whether it can be a number of activity or number or how long an activity is, definitely helping a user putting a sense of how much they've accomplished their goal. So that we believe that there's certain type of tracking is definitely important. And that would be the end of our presentation.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's stop the clock. Okay, Yagmur, would you like to give the feedback?
Yeah, great job. One of my teams also. I'm so excited. I love how you set your background information. It definitely set the tone for me. I love how you gave the background information as well as the objective in detailed. That definitely made me understand like, okay, this is what I'm going to expect to hear from. So that was great. And you picked the generative research route instead of mixing it with evaluative to understand the users better. So your background information helped me understand, okay, this is why they did this research. So that was great. In terms of the participants, I would like to, I'm doing a little, I might sound like I'm giving like critical information. It's just that's what they might ask you questions about. So I'm telling you now so you can answer that without them answering those questions later on. So they might, like stakeholders might want to ask you, like, tell me why you chose these participants. Maybe you can set the tone by saying that this is our product's target audience. That's why we chose these participants, because you're giving me like their demographic information. I would like to know like why you chose them. Like, is it because you could only have access to them? Is it because those are your target audience? Is this your potential audience, you think? So tell me why a bit more about the participants. I would like to know more information about the key findings. When you're presenting your key findings, I love that you put quotes there. I love that you have themes, and I love how you mentioned like, this is what we assumed and this is what we found. That was very interesting. However, I would like to know a little bit more about it. Like, tell me more about it, okay? Like, for example, you said the cost of being active is greater than the motivation, especially for women. Tell me what that means more. Translate that to me a little bit more. You said like overcoming these costs often feel like too much without proper support. Like, what does proper support mean here? What does too much mean here? Like, I would like to know a little bit more about it. Like, I left like a little bit like I had too many questions afterwards. Like, oh, what does that mean? And I love that you showed what you assumed as well. That was very interesting and great. I really liked how detailed your competitive analysis was. Maybe because you have so much text with your competitive analysis when presenting it, maybe highlight some of the strengths and weaknesses that you think I can benefit for my product. You know how you're listing all your weaknesses and strengths, like maybe highlight one or two from each so I can focus on them while you're speaking about that. So I can be like, oh, these are the ones that I can pick up for my product from these competitors. And these are the main learnings that I can pick up. But if I want to learn more, I can go more in that because you have all those information there. So that's great. And in terms of this recommendation slide, always assume that some of your stakeholders are going to want to come back to this presentation and read more at their own time. So they might not have the grist and they might not have all those information from this slide only. I think you're giving a little too little here. I would like to know a little bit more about like, what does those true beginners mean? I know you explained it in your presentation, but I would like it to be written here a little bit more, just so if I want to come back and understand that, I don't have to memorize what was the true beginners mean from your presentation. Maybe I thought, like, while you were presenting it, maybe having this presentation combined with like a conclusion slide, like you can have a conclusion slide right before and then having this presentation, this recommendation after, could help me refer, like, okay, the true beginners meant that because that's what I learned from the conclusion slide. That could like help me, one, give meanings to these recommendations, and two, actually have a little bit more like summarized understanding of, okay, what you told me was a lot, but this is the summary, this is my takeaway that I need to take away. So that might make it a little stronger. But overall, like, really, again, like another really good presentation. I love the route that you took. Like, you're like, okay, I want to know more about the users before jumping into evaluative studies. So I love how you were like more discovery phase, this more like generative research. I want to know more about the users. I want to know more about their needs. So that was really good. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yagmur. Thank you. Thank you, guys. You did a great job.
Thank you, Esther.
Awesome. So for the team, the last team that will go, it will be team 15. I'm not sure if we're gonna do that. Can Sam, are you there?
Mhm.
Okay, so I think
Right. Well, Sam just sent me a message earlier. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the presentation yet, so we probably wouldn't have the 13th today with us.
okay. So should we then start the 5-minute
Yeah.
Q&A? If anybody has any questions that they've either already written or have right now, please address it. And, you know, CJ, if you also have some questions.
I will take a look. Right now, feel free to put in your question in the chat box. Yagmur is here with us. She may be able to answer the questions, so please leave your questions down below. Or if there's any team that would like to do a presentation with us, we can also accept that today, since we still have nearly 20 minutes with us. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Team 11, I think Yagmur just put down, I'm curious about what was the team's favorite parts from the research study they did. Alice or Stella, do you want to share a little bit?
I'll just like explain my question a little bit. So, for example, as a researcher, I love sitting down with users and talking with them, but I sometimes drag that recruitment part or the analysis part, but I love creating the presentations too, because I can see things coming together. So I'm just curious, like, what was your favorite parts, like, of the studies that you conducted? Like, what did you like the most, and what did you enjoy the most?
I would definitely second what you said. I love talking to people, but the recruitment was horrible. Especially being B2B markets, finding people to talk to for no incentive at all was a struggle for sure. And then it being so niche as well, that was tough.
That's definitely a tough point. But in real life industry work, thankfully you will have some kind of budget, or you'll get to work with third-party recruitment agencies. So hopefully you won't have to deal with that again.
That's good.
I agree that the most part I enjoy was interviewing the users, getting to know the insights from them, their lifestyles, and digging out those little insights where they're talking and further probing them for more information out of them. At times it sounded like it was annoying that I was repeating the same questions in a different way, but I wanted to talk a little bit more and find out a little bit more. And sometimes I feel like they were like, you already said it 3-4 times already. Like, no, but I want to tell me a little bit more about it. So I think that was the part that I enjoy is interaction with the users.
Yeah, that definitely takes practice, like opening up users, especially for those who are just saying yes and no, not really giving you more. Especially when you are already having trouble with recruitment, you have only a limited amount of participants, right? So that's definitely a skill that you will grow within time and experience for sure.
I think one thing about that I would say is don't ever stop the recording too early, because they happen to say a lot after they think the whole interview process is done already. Like during the small talk afterward, they really open up suddenly.
Yeah, totally. Great point. And always like I am a person in my personal life that I don't feel comfortable with awkward silence, but in my participant interviews, I have to be okay with it, because that silence is a cue for participants to think like, okay, I don't think I said enough. Let me say a little bit more. So that's something that also comes with learning for sure. I think there's a question that says, what software you guys used from your slides. Team 11 apparently used Canva. And I believe the other team used Pitch, if I'm not wrong, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. The other question is like, as a beginner in UX design, how to get real life projects, like getting the first project. These kind of organizations, definitely follow them, definitely take advantage of their challenges. Because, for example, all the teams got to work with real world companies and real world stakeholders. So that's a great way. Another way is literally just, let's say, sit down and what would you do with the Uber app? Try to pick an app that you use often from your phone and try to find a project from there, like you created yourself for your portfolio, but that wouldn't be a real life one. Like these kind of IterateUX kind of organizations, challenges are the most real life projects that you can get as a beginner, like to build up your portfolio. Of course, you can also get internships, but if you want to also spend time, like literally sit down and like, how can I make Google Maps better? Let me figure out what problems exist. Let me talk with people. You can create a whole UX research, UX design project from scratch just by yourself doing that.
Should I read off that question? So yeah. For user interviews and testing, did anyone also struggle to readjust to what sort of questions to ask or avoid into loaded/leading questions? So I guess it's talking about, how to ask questions so that it's not so leading.
Do you mean like per participant? Because your questions shouldn't change per participant, but do you mean like while you translate your research questions into like study guide questions? Is that what you mean? Like you don't want to, how are you going to ask those leading questions?
Jennifer, you may, unmute yourself if you need to.
I was struggling with when we were doing user interviews, there was a case where they described their experience on a website, and sometimes I would redirect them to the correct thought process, and there was like some sort of awkward, and I felt like when you mentioned that awkward silence was handy, I felt like that too. But in this case, if I was struggling to redirect them, is there like any sort of guide or specific question that would not stray them away from the main situation?
Mm-hmm. Like in those cases, what I like to do is I let them finish their word, but if they're taking too much time, I would be like, oh, okay, perfect. Like I will just jump in that. But let's talk about this now. Like, for example, if they're talking about how they shop online, right? Like, but if I'm interested in how they shop in store, let's say they're talking, I'll be like, okay, let's now talk about online. You can use, there's a framework, it's called TEDW. If you write TEDW framework, you can ask questions in phrase like, tell me the last time you did in-person shopping. Tell me more about it. What happened there? So once they start telling that story, you can ask more questions about the topic that you're more interested in. So with that framework, you're kind of shifting their attention back to your topic. Like it's tell me the last time you did that. Explain me when you did in-person grocery shopping. I'm making up the topic right now. Describe me what happened there. What else is happening? Can you tell me, like, just let's talk about this now. Tell me the last time it happened. Tell me how you were feeling. So when you're directing, try to get them into talk, because people love talking about themselves and their feelings and their what they think. They like to give their opinions a lot. So if you're having a hard time trying to shift the topic, try to shift the topic through their feelings and their thinking and their opinions, then they will likely talk more about it. Then you can ask more questions. I hope this helps. It's a tricky thing. You, again, get that with experience. The more you talk with participants, the more you'll be experienced. In some cases, I have to be like, okay, like, let's stop talking about that because we have a limited time. In some cases, I'm like, oh, okay, I heard you about that. Let's now shift. Let's now talk about this other topic that I'm interested in learning more. So it's definitely tricky, but check out the TEDW framework. That will definitely help you frame your questions.
Do you want to take the last question here also?
Yeah, sure. How do you counteract stakeholders feeling like talking to just a couple of people that has no relevance on wider population? Do you always follow up with qualitative? No. Okay, this is a great topic, because a lot of qualitative research can be considered as insignificant just because we are only talking with X amount of people. In those situations, what I like to do is, like, before even I start my research, I like to explain my stakeholders why we are only talking with 7 people. I like to send them best practices. I like to send them resources from NN Group, from online organizations, that kind of explains them what that saturation means, what it means to find themes that we can generalize to a wider range of populations. That's what qualitative UX research means. So I like to explain them what qualitative research means. And if they're still hesitant after I present them my findings, only because I only recruited X amount of participants, which I want to have a little bit of break here, which is why important for you to add quotes. Go over the quotes while you're presenting, show them the video clip, show them the screenshots. It's very important to do that. That kind of makes them feel more significant, makes them feel like, okay, the number of people that we spoke with are significant enough. But if they're still having hesitations about the number of people that you're speaking in qualitative research, even though that is what qualitative research is, you can, in your recommendations, you can recommend a follow-up study, a survey, for example, to understand if this is happening in wider range of populations or not. Like a survey would be, let's say, 10 questions, and in a day you can wrap it up, right? Like you can bring them back new data from that. Or what you can do is you can show them that, for example, if you're talking about the churn rates, you can show them that prior data, the quant data, then that you said 50% of our users are churning. And then you're talking about the why, and then tell them, like, I'm researching the why now. And we can theme up themes, because the saturation tells us that once you have X amount of participants agreeing on that, we can generalize it, etc. So you can support it with, like, that background quantitative data that you already get from your data analytics team. That's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is explaining them what qualitative research means in detail with resources prior to the study. Another one is that recommending them a follow-up study to strengthen the data if they're still hesitant, which they will still say the same thing, because qualitative research is still significant, which then they will have a good understanding. Okay, the first research was actually sufficient enough. Moving on, I'll probably stick with one research study if that's giving me my answers. I hope this helps.
Yeah, and I think, Daniel, you asked maybe like another last question. Can you?
This happened to me so many times.
Yeah, I think this is very important, actually. Like, because it says here, how do you engage with a user that turns out they likely accidentally fibbed or misinterpreted the screener, meaning they aren't the ideal fit for the business?
Yeah. So this happened to me recently at one of my research studies at BuzzFeed because we are giving incentives. This person hacked the survey, not hacked the survey, but figured out how to pass the screener survey to get to the incentive, and also gave the same answers to their friends and family. Therefore recruited and invited to the study. What I like to do at the beginning of my studies, I don't jump into my research questions right away. I ask them about a little bit about like something related to my study, but also trying to get to know them. So I don't lose that half an hour, that 45 minutes asking them questions without actually learning anything about my users, right? So in those 5 minutes, I kind of get a sense of like if this person actually qualifies to be participant at my study, or if they're actually doing it to get to the incentive, or if they might have misinterpreted, right? You can make sure to add such like 1 or 2 questions at the beginning, trying to understand them, but also trying to understand these two, like this perspective as well. Anyways, what I did was I told them that I am sorry that they wasted their time to schedule a meeting with me, schedule this interview with me. However, I wouldn't be able to continue this because they don't qualify for our study, but I tell them, please keep an eye out for the future studies. If you qualify next time, we'll sure to reach out to you. However, for now, we are looking for a different kind of participants because we are focusing on this, that, rather than what you represent as a user for me. So thank you so much for your time. And that's it. Like, you don't waste their time. That's why you don't owe them an incentive at the end. But also you don't waste your time, so you can recruit actually qualifying participants afterwards. This will happen to you more once you're actually giving incentives. People just want that. So that's why it's also important to ask more detailed screener questions, maybe couple qualitative questions even, to see who actually comes in and answers, who actually gives you more in-depth answers, so you can actually tell that who qualifies and who doesn't if you're recruiting yourself.
Thank you so much, Yagmur. I think that wraps up the questions, but if you have any other questions, I think you can certainly DM her on Discord. And thank you guys all for coming today. I hope that you guys can continue joining us for our upcoming next challenges. It's probably not going to happen right away because it's December, but sometime next year. Keep a lookout for it, join our community, and talk with each other to get great tips and motivations and whatnot. So CJ, anything else?
No, we're good. Thank you everyone for joining the session today with us.
Yeah, awesome. Yagmur, anything?
Thank you all. I think everyone did a great job. I'm sure you learned a lot. So that's already itself a great job. And I'm excited to have more UX researchers in the industry who are excited about user research. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was awesome. Okay, thank you everyone.